press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hello everybody. So I think all are well prepared for your competitive tests. So you have finished your six splits of competitive tests from first PU syllabus and also six split tests from the second PU syllabus. So I hope you have started attending the grant papers, and now this is the discussion of the second grant paper. So I think don't get panic if you have got less marks in your first grant paper. So in the future days, when you are appearing more and more of grant papers, your marks is surely going to improve. So nothing to panic. You will get back with your track. Okay, students, let's start with the discussion of the second Neet paper, that is the grant paper, which is a combination of both first PU syllabus and the second PU syllabus. So I shall start the discussion from question number 136. Is looking into the question. So we have the question here in front of us. Hormones secreted by the placenta to maintain pregnancy are. So the question is from the chapter Human Reproduction. So it's a very simple question. I hope all of you might have answered. So the question, the hormones that are secreted from placenta are HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin is absolutely right. Progestogens is also right. Estrogens is also right, but not glucocorticoids. So first one is not a right match to the given question. Glucocorticoids are secreted from the adrenal glands. So the second question is HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin, HPL, that is human placental lactogen, and estrogens, relaxin, and also oxytocin. Of course, relaxin is also secreted from the placenta at the later stage of pregnancy, but not oxytocin. So oxytocin is secreted from the pituitary gland itself, that is from the neurohypophysis of the pituitary gland. And therefore, that is also not the right answer because oxytocin is not secreted from placenta. So looking into the third option, we have HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin, HPL, human placental lactogen, progestogens, and prolactin. Once again, prolactin is a hormone which is secreted from the adenohypophysis of pituitary but not from the placenta. So the last option, HCG, that is human chorionic gonadotropin, HPL, human placental lactogen, and progestogens and also estrogens are secreted from the placenta itself. So HCG, HPL and relaxin are the three important hormones which are secreted only at the time of pregnancy. So at the time of pregnancy, there will be more and more secretion, even the secretion of more and more of thyroid hormones and also the glucocorticoids to maintain the pregnancy. So they are very, very essential. So for this question, the right answer is option 2. So moving on to the question number 137. So the contraceptive Saheli. So we know what is a contraceptive. So contraceptives are those which will prevent pregnancy or postpone the pregnancy or prevent the process of pregnancy though there is copulation. So it is an IUD. The options given are it is an IUD. Second one, IUD. First one, it cannot be the right answer because IUD is intrauterine devices. So intrauterine devices are also the contraceptives, but Saheli is not an IUD. So intrauterine devices are those devices which are placed in the your mouth of the uterus so that it prevents the entry of sperms. Anyhow, the second one, increases the concentration of estrogen and prevents ovulation in females. So increases the concentration of estrogen. It is not going to increase the concentration of estrogen. Hormone concentration cannot be increased so easily and prevents ovulation in females. Of course, it prevents ovulation, but it cannot increase the concentration of estrogen and if at all estrogen concentration is increased, the prevention of what pregnancy cannot be carried out. So the contraceptive Saheli is a post-coital contraceptive. See, it is a post-coital. That means, so some of the pills are available in the market which soon after the coitus, within a span of 72 hours of after the coitus, if they are taken, they can also prevent pregnancy, which are called as post-coital contraceptives. Sorry. So Saheli is not a post-coital contraceptive. Saheli is a oral pill. It is a oral pill and it is popularly called as once a week pill. It is called as a once a week pill. It is called as a once a week pill and therefore it is very popular and it contains progestogens and estrogen combinations. So the fourth one is the right answer because this Saheli will block the estrogen receptors in the uterus, preventing eggs from getting implanted. So here egg means the one which has undergone fertilization. So blocks estrogen receptors. So estrogen receptors are blocked in the uterus. You know, estrogen is a uterine hormone and it blocks the estrogen receptors so that it prevents the eggs from getting implanted. Eggs is fertilized egg is unable to get implanted into the uterine wall. So that is what a Saheli is going to do. That is about this question. So moving on to question number 138. So once again the question is from human reproduction itself. The differences between spermiogenesis and spermiation is. So they are asking the difference between spermiogenesis and spermiation. So spermiogenesis is a different aspect and spermiation is a different aspect. So what is that difference? So spermiogenesis or spermatogenesis consists of two steps, that is formation of spermatids and then the formation of the spermatozoa from the spermatid. And the second, and the release of those formed sperms is called as spermiation. Now let us look into the right definition of spermiogenesis and spermiation. So in spermiogenesis, what happens? Look into the first option. In spermiogenesis, spermatozoa are formed, while in spermiation, spermatids are formed. So spermiation is not formation of spermatids. So in the first step of spermatozoa itself, the spermatids are formed. So in this, that is, in the spermiogenesis is the formation of from the spermatozoa, sperms are formed. So in spermiogenesis, spermatozoa are formed, while in spermiation, spermatids are formed. So first one is absolutely wrong because it is not defining both of them properly. So in the second one, in spermiogenesis, spermatozoa are formed, while in spermiation, spermatozoa are released from Sertoli cells into the cavity of the seminiferous tubules. Absolutely right it is. In spermiogenesis, spermatozoa are formed. So spermatozoa can also be called as sperms. So spermatozoa are formed and in the seminiferous tubules and they are released. So finally, after the complete process where the spermatozoa will undergo first mitotic division to form the primary spermatocyte, and the primary spermatocyte will undergo meiosis to form the secondary spermatocyte wherein it becomes haploid, and this secondary spermatocyte finally forms a spermatid and finally it becomes a motile sperm, and that process you can call it as spermiogenesis. So which is formed from the spermatozoa. So which is formed from the spermatogonia and they are called as either sperms or spermatozoa. While in spermiation, so there is release of these spermatozoa or the sperms from the Sertoli cells into the cavity of this seminiferous tubules. Soon after the formation of the sperms, they go and attach to the Sertoli cells because they provide nutrients to them. and they are finally released into the cavity of the seminiferous tubules from the Sertoli cells. Therefore, option 2 is the right answer. So in the third, in spermiogenesis, spermatids are formed, while in spermiation, spermatozoa are formed. No, it is wrong. And in the third, in spermiogenesis, spermatozoa from Sertoli cells are released into the cavity of the seminiferous tubules, while in spermiation, spermatozoa are formed. So they have given reverse, so it is also not appropriate. So we are moving into the, so second one is the right answer, and we are moving into the next question, 139. Now, once again, the question is from human reproduction. So, the seminal plasma, the fluid part of semen, is contributed by seminal vesicle, prostate, urethra, bulbourethral gland. So, we all know that the male reproductive system consists of male accessory ducts. So, there are male accessory ducts. So these male accessory ducts, they are a prostate gland, a pair of bulbourethral glands, or it is also called as bulbourethral glands, or it is also called as Cowper's gland. It is also called as Cowper's gland, and a pair of seminal vesicle. A pair of seminal vesicle. So these are the male accessory ducts. So urethra is a part of the excretory system. So we find urinogenital system in human beings, and therefore there is a opening which is the urethra also opens into the penis. So now urethral opening is also found in the penis, which is also an external genitalia of the male reproductive system. So the secretions of all these three, that is the prostate gland, the bulbourethral glands, and the seminal vesicles, all together we call it as seminal plasma. All the three, the secretion of all the three together is called as seminal plasma, or the semen you call it as. So seminal plasma, which is rich in fructose and also in various enzymes. So it is contributed from the male accessory ducts, but not from urethra. Therefore, 1, 2 and 4 are the right answer, because all the three, seminal vesicle, prostate and bulbourethral gland, are the male accessory glands which secrete the seminal plasma. So urethra, it is the external opening of the urinary bladder, and it is very long in case of males. So which is almost opens at the tip of the penis. So moving on to the next question, that is question number 140. The question is from organisms and population. So in a growing population of a country, productive individuals are less than the post-reproductive individuals. Second one, pre-reproductive individuals are less than the reproductive individuals. Pre-reproductive individuals are more than the reproductive individuals. Reproductive and pre-reproductive individuals are equal in number. So in a growing population means it is an expanding type of population. So in a growing population means what you can understand? We can understand it is a growing type of population, that is, it is going to expand in the future, because there is a growth means the population is going to expand. So an expanding population consists of individuals of three age groups. One is the pre-reproductive, reproductive, and the post-reproductive, So according to the various individuals present in the various age groups, there are three different types of individuals we find in a population. That is one which is called as pre-reproductive individuals, So who have not entered into they are at the age group who have not yet reached maturity. So in reproductive, we find the individuals who are at reproductive age, and also which have attained reproduction and are capable of reproducing. So in the last one, it is post-reproductive. So who have crossed the age of reproduction, they are placed under post-reproductive individuals. So these are the three groups of individuals that can be found in any population. So these three individuals are going to, the number of these individuals is going to decide whether in the future the population size is going to increase or decrease or remains the same. So this is a pyramid. You can call this as a age pyramid. So we find three different age groups of people who are classified as reproductive, reproductive, and post-reproductive. So in this, what you can find is here we have the pre-reproductive. So when the population has to increase, so when in the increasing population, what happens is these pre-reproductive individuals should be more in number, then only in the future the population size is going to increase, right? So in a growing population of a country, what is happening? The pre-reproductive individuals are more. The pre-reproductive individuals are more than the reproductive individuals. So the individuals in this particular, that is at the base, which is formed by the pre-reproductive individuals, they are more in number. And this type of pyramid, when you take a shape of this pyramid, it is almost triangle in shape. A triangular age pyramid, it is also referred as, and it is also called as the expanding population. This is showing the expanding population, or in the future years the population size is going to increase. So the right answer is pre-reproductive individuals are more than the reproductive individuals. That is, third one is the right answer. Next, moving on to question number 141. Yes. We have a question coming from the chapter biodiversity and its conservation. So the question, all of the following are included in ex situ conservation except. All of the following are included in ex situ conservation. So we know the importance of biodiversity today. They are of various uses to us. So they are of narrow utilitarian uses, they are of broad utilitarian uses, and also we have some ethical uses out of this. So all these contributes. We cannot survive without the biodiversity. Hence, we need to protect them and also to conserve them. So because of various anthropogenic activities like deforestation or construction of more and more factories and industries, we are losing our forest. So we are when the forest is lost, the organisms living in this forest is also lost. Therefore, there is a need for conservation or protection of the various animals and plants. So all of the following are included in ex situ conservation. So in the conservation part, we have two types of conservation, which is called as in situ or in-site conservation, and the other is ex situ conservation. So in situ conservation, the organisms are conserved in their natural habitat itself. If tigers are to be conserved, the whole of the forest is also conserved so that the tiger will also be conserved, is an example for in situ conservation. But in ex situ conservation, that is not the case. So human beings have made a special setup where the organisms are protected with special care. So now the question is, all of the following are included in ex situ conservation. So we are supposed to pick out one option which is not included in ex situ conservation. So the first option is sacred groves, the second is seed banks, the third is botanical gardens, and the fourth is wild safari parks. So here the first one is an example for in situ conservation. So what are sacred groves? Groves means forest. Sacred means the one which are worshipped or which we we show a lot of respect and veneration. So such forests are called as sacred forest or sacred groves they are referred as. So ನಮ್ಮ ದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಭೂತಾರಾಧನೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ದೇವಿ ಆರಾಧನೆ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದೇವರಿಗೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಕಾಡನ್ನ ಮೀಸಲಾಗಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಯಾವುದೇ ಪ್ರಾಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಮುಟ್ಟಲ್ಲ, ಭಯ. That is, they have great respect or worship. They, because they worship this Vanadevi, they are highly protected. All the species in that particular forest, that cultural tract of forest, are completely protected and conserved. So that they are called as sacred groves, and we find sacred groves in Western Ghats of Karnataka. We also find the sacred groves in Kashi and Jainta hills of Meghalaya. Sorry, yes, Kashi and Jainta hills of Meghalaya, Aravali hills of Rajasthan, Chanda and Bastar of Madhya Pradesh. So all these places are where we find the sacred groves, which are cultural tracts of forest in which the organisms, that is plants and animals, are venerated and protected, right? So that is an example for in situ conservation. Seed banks. So seed banks are those banks which are artificially prepared by man to conserve or to preserve the various species of seeds or various seeds of different plants. Botanical gardens, they are special setup made by human beings, or garden setup specially to care certain plants. They are called as botanical gardens. Wild safari parks, wildlife safari parks. Here, the wild species are conserved or protected in a special setup which is specially made for them, and they are highly protected and taken special care. And special care is taken of those animals. They are called as wild safari parks, which is also an example. Seed banks, botanical gardens, and wildlife safari parks are example of our ex situ conservation. But sacred groves, they are example for in situ conservation. So moving on to the next question, that is 142. Which part of poppy plant is used to obtain the drug smack? So this is a question coming from Human Health and Diseases, where we have studied about certain drugs, right? So which part of poppy plant? Poppy plant is Papaver somniferum, is the poppy plant, which is used to extract certain drugs. So opioids or certain drugs which are extracted from the poppy plant, and that drug is also called as smack or heroin. It is also called as heroin, and it is a depressant. It is a depressant. So this poppy plant is used to obtain the drug smack, and which part is contributing or secreting or containing those alkaloids or utilized for making this diacetyl morphine or heroin? So that is, the answer is latex. So the latex of this poppy plant are used in extracting the smack or heroin. So the right answer is latex. So various drugs of various species of plants are used for extracting the drugs. Maybe their leaves, maybe their leaf buds, floral buds, or the roots, or even the flowers are used for extraction of various type of drugs. So here in poppy plant, smack is extracted from the latex. So moving on to the next question, question number 143. Yes, we have a match the following here, and I think the whole of this match the following contains column 1 and column 2, and it contains the content coming from the chapter environmental issues. So we have on column 1, we have eutrophication, sanitary landfill, snow blindness, and jhum cultivation. So on column 2, we have UVB radiation, deforestation, nutrient enrichment, waste disposal. Okay, let me explain something about this. This 4 words. The first one is called as eutrophication, right? The first one is eutrophication. So eutrophication, we call it as natural aging of a lake. So in the process, a lake for after many years may be converted into a land area, which can be called as a natural aging. And due to natural aging, this lake has got converted into a land area, finally into a land area. And this of course requires many years, but to happen this naturally, which it requires hundreds of years. But due to anthropogenic activities, what is happening is, so this process has hastened or quickened to a greater extent. So aging of lakes, we call it as. So that is because of nutrient enrichment. So what happens is, when some of the nutrients or the fertilizers are sprayed to the agricultural fields, and if there are heavy rains, so these fertilizers are washed away by the rainwater into the ponds or the lakes. So when these nutrients in the sense the fertilizers reach the lakes, what happens? So usually the fertilizers are rich in nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. So when they reach the lake, in the lake also we find so many algae or so many other plants, that is water plants or the hydric plants we find, hydrophytes we find. So they start growing abundantly or rapidly. They start growing very rapidly because they get the various nutrients like NPK. So because there is enrichment of the nutrients, so there is sporadic increase in the weeds or whatever the plants that are present in the lake, and they start, in the course of time, they start dying. So when they die, they get deposited in the bottom of the lake as debris, and in a very slow process, this lake is slowly getting converted into land areas, and then the water content becomes very less and less. And what happens is, slowly it gets converted into a marshy area where it will start producing certain rooted plants, and finally it may get converted into a land area. So this entire process, you call it as eutrophication. So which is once again because of it would have been a very slow process, but because of various anthropogenic activities, we find this eutrophication moving in a very accelerated way, which is also called as accelerated eutrophication, which is because of human activities. So the right match for eutrophication can be nutrient enrichment. I shall come to the board once again. So we have nutrient enrichment on the third. A can be matched with the third one. So coming to what is a sanitary landfill? So sanitary landfill, it is something which is related to solid waste management. I hope all of you know what is solid waste. Solid waste, every house will produce huge number of waste. Every house will produce, every commercial complex will produce, every shop will produce, every hospital will produce its own waste, which can be called as solid waste. And all these wastes, it may contain degradable or non-degradable. They can be put into a depression or a trenches, deep trenches, and all these waste can be dumped into it, which you call it as sanitary landfill. So we have one of the options telling that waste disposal. So sanitary landfill can be matched with waste disposal, right? So now the third one, that is telling snow blindness. So snow blindness is one of the disease related with the cornea of the eye. So snow blindness is because of the cornea will absorb UVB radiation. So where does this radiation come from? We know about the sun rays containing UV rays, which are very, very poisonous or harmful to us. So ozone is a blanket like cover which is protecting the earth from such harmful rays. So due to various anthropogenic activities, there are various ozone holes created in the blanket which is protecting the earth, and through these holes the earth is getting the radiations which are harmful, and one of them are the UVB radiation. So these radiations have long wavelengths, and they are directly absorbed by the cornea of our eye, thereby causing snow blindness or cataract, or even you call it as corneal infection. So cornea of the eye is affected due to UVB radiation. UVB radiation. So snow blindness can be matched with option 1, that is UVB radiation. Finally, it is Jung cultivation. So what is Jung cultivation? So Jung cultivation is also called as slash and burn cultivation. It is also called as slash and burn cultivation. So in slash and burn cultivation, a group of people may reside in a particular area or in a forest. They may cut down that forest, and that cut forest debris are burnt, and that same burnt ash is used as fertilizer. And in that cut area, they will start cultivating the crops or the food crops or any of the vegetables or fruits even are cultivated in that area, and that burnt ash is used as a fertilizer. So which is called as slash and burn. They'll burn all the debris of the forest, and that ash is used as the fertilizer. So this type of cultivation is done by people, so which is called as jhum cultivation or slash and burn cultivation. So they will do that they will stay there for some days and they will move to another place. Therefore, this is also one of the reason. This is also one of the reason for deforestation. One of the reason for deforestation. So let me come back to the table. So column 1, eutrophication can be matched with nutrient enrichment. Sanitary landfill can be matched with waste disposal. Snow blindness can be matched with UVB radiation. And jhum cultivation can be matched with deforestation. So the right matches A3, B4, then CA, DB, right? D2, A3, B4, C1 and D2 is the right match. So let us move to the next question, that is 144th question. So we have a question coming from organisms and population. So let's go through the question. Which one of the following population interactions is widely used in medical science for the production of antibiotics? So here the options or answers given over there are parasitism, commensalism, mutualism and amensalism. So these are various population interactions. So in population interactions, we have two types of population interactions. One is called as positive population interaction and the other is called as negative population interaction. So usually the parasitism, predation and amensalism, all the three are called as negative population interaction. It is called as negative population interaction, or it is also called as detrimental interaction. Negative in population interaction, because one of them is going to lose its life in all these cases, or one of the life among the interacting species, one species is at the threat of losing its life. So therefore these three are called as negative population interactions or detrimental interactions, or it is also called as antagonism. Right now, here it is widely used in the field of medical science for the production of antibiotics. So parasitism, it is widely we see in almost all organisms. There are so many plant and animal parasites which live in our own body itself. We find so many parasites, right? Various bacteria, they take rest in our own body. They consume all the nutrients which belongs to us. So parasitism. The second one is commensalism. So this is a positive population interaction because none of them are harmed. In commensalism is a type of population interaction in which one is benefited and the other is neither harmed nor it is benefited. So for commensalism, we have one example I am going to give you is epiphytes. So some of the plants, they grow on the trees which can be called as epiphytes. So if you take a tamarind tree or even mango tree, we find some other orchids growing on them. So they are called as epiphytes. So the orchids which grow on the mango tree or the tamarind tree is benefited, whereas the tamarind tree or the mango tree is neither benefited nor it is harmed. Therefore, this type of interaction is called as commensalism. So the third one, you call it as mutualism, and mutualism is also a positive type of population interaction wherein both the interacting species are benefited. For example, we can take the example of the lichens. So where lichens is a combination of both algae and fungi. So both of them, algae is dependent upon fungi for absorption of minerals, whereas the same fungi is dependent upon algae for its food. So that is mutualism, and the last one is amensalism. So amensalism is a type of interaction in which one is harmed, and the other is neither harmed nor benefited. Neither harmed nor benefited. So antibiotics, we know the antibiotics. So there are some toxins which are released by the bacteria which are capable of killing other bacteria. So the bacteria which is going to release the toxin is neither benefited nor it is harmed. So the other one, so the toxins which are released by this bacteria are going to kill some other group of bacteria. That is why this toxin can be called as an antibiotic, right? So this is one of the best example for amensalism, where one is harmed and the other is neither benefited nor it is harmed. So the antibiotics can be best example for amensalism. So moving on to question number 145. Yeah. Which of the following events does not occur in rough endoplasmic reticulum? So which of the following does not occur in rough endoplasmic reticulum? So this is a question coming from the chapter Cell, the Unit of Life. So the first chapter, Cell, Structure and Function. So rough endoplasmic reticulum is one of the structure which is found inside the cell, which forms the skeleton of the cell. So intraskeletal structures you can also call them as. So these rough endoplasmic reticulum connect the nuclear membrane and the nuclear membrane and the cell membrane. So if this is the cell membrane and this is the nucleus, there is a connection between the nucleolus and the nuclear membrane. So this can be called as the endoplasmic reticulum. So this endoplasmic reticulum is of two types, rough and smooth. On the rough endoplasmic reticulum, we find beaded structures which are nothing but the ribosomes. So now something asked about it. Which of the following events does not occur in RAR? So the answer is, the options are protein glycosylation, then phospholipid synthesis, protein infolding, cleavage of signal peptide. So cleavage of signal peptide. So first one is protein glycosylation. So what is the meaning of protein glycosylation? Protein mixed with carbohydrates. We call it as protein glycosylation. So that happens in rough endoplasmic reticulum. So rough endoplasmic reticulum is going to synthesize the protein and also it may mix with the carbohydrates. So phospholipid synthesis cannot take place in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So this one does not belong to rough endoplasmic reticulum. Protein folding. So this also happens in rough endoplasmic reticulum. Cleavage of signal peptide. So peptide is also the amino acids. So these amino acids are cleaved. So they are also a part of rough endoplasmic reticulum. Only phospholipid synthesis does not belong to this particular rough endoplasmic reticulum. So now moving on to the next question, question 146. So we have the question, which of these statements is incorrect? So just check it out twice whether the question is demanding a correct statement or an incorrect statement. In such questions, we do make mistakes. So we just forget about the prefix in. So incorrect is you have to fetch out a wrong statement here, right? So look into the statements. Enzymes of TCA cycle are present in mitochondrial matrix. Second one, oxidative phosphorylation takes place in outer mitochondrial membrane. So glycolysis occurs in cytosol. Fourth one, glycolysis operates as long as it is supplied with NAD that can pick up hydrogen atoms. So now we have to look into the wrong statement, right? So enzymes. So this is a question coming from the chapter respiration in plants. So in respiration of plants, we find the cellular, we are going to study the mechanisms involved in cellular respiration, right? So this cellular respiration comprises of three important events. The first one is glycolysis. The second is Krebs cycle, or you also call it as TCA cycle, right? Or citric acid cycle, TCA, or even you call it as citric acid cycle. And the third one is ETS and oxidative phosphorylation, right? Oxidative phosphorylation. So now glycolysis is going to take place in the cytoplasm of this cell, in the cytoplasm, right? In the cytoplasm. Whereas Krebs cycle or TCA is going to take place in the mitochondrial matrix. Is going to take place in the mitochondrial matrix. So we know the structure of mitochondria. So it is a rod-shaped structure, and we have an outer membrane, and we also have inner membrane which has got certain infoldings like this, right? Which are called as cristae. Now the question is, where exactly all this processes takes place? So this is called as the outer membrane. This is called as the outer membrane. And this is called as the inner membrane. And this is called as the mitochondrial matrix. This is called a mitochondrial matrix. And we have outside the mitochondria, we have the cytosol, right? Yeah. Here, the breakdown of glucose, ultimately in this entire process, what is going to happen is glucose is broken down to release energy. So that is what the entire process here is we are speaking about in cellular respiration. Now look into the options, which is wrong, which is right. Okay. So the first statement is saying enzymes. So you can see the board once again. So I have written the three steps of the cellular respiration and mitochondria with various structures. So now after looking this, you can get back to the question. Enzymes of TCA cycle, that is citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle, right, are present in mitochondrial matrix. So what we have written, Krebs cycle or TCA cycle takes place in the mitochondrial matrix. Yes. So therefore, that is the reason why Krebs cycle takes place in the mitochondrial matrix. It is correct statement. We are supposed to look into the wrong statement. The second one is oxidative phosphorylation takes place in outer mitochondrial membrane. So oxidative phosphorylation is the last step in this cellular respiration, where complete ATP molecules are to be produced. So oxidative phosphorylation takes place not in the, it will take place, both of them will take place in the inner membrane. It will take place in the inner membrane of the what? Takes place in the inner membrane. It will take place in the inner membrane of the mitochondria, but not on the outer membrane. Therefore, the second statement is absolutely wrong. Right? Incorrect is the second one. So, glycolysis occurs in cytosol, that is in the cytoplasm. I have told you the cytoplasm of the cell can be called as the cytosol because it also contains the various other organelles in it. So, cytosol, glycolysis, the first step takes place in the cytosol, right? Glycolysis operates as long as it is supplied with NAD that can pick up hydrogen atoms. Is also absolutely right, where glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. So with in the it is called as a metabolic pathway because it wherein series of reactions, 10 series of reactions takes place where glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. So moving on to the 147 question. Now, so just let me click back to the previous question. So we have this question where second one is the right answer, right? So moving on to 147, we have many ribosomes may associate with a single mRNA. Many ribosomes may associate with a single mRNA to form multiple copies of. So this is a question coming from the chapter molecular basis of inheritance. So there also we study, and we have studied something about ribosomes in the chapter cell, right? Structure and function. There also we have come across this word called as polysome, right? Now the options are polysome, nucleosome, polyhedral bodies, and plastidome. So here the right answer is polysome. See, a single mRNA which comes out of the nucleus is transcribed. We know in protein synthesis we have two steps. Protein synthesis, we have two important steps. One is called as the transcription. One is called as the transcription. One is called as the transcription and the other is called as the translation. So what happens in transcription? The information is present in the nucleus. So in the nucleus, they are present in the chromosomes, that is in the genes or in the DNA. So the information which is present on the fragment of DNA, that is on the gene, is transcribed onto mRNA, and that mRNA comes out of the cell and starts translating it into an amino acid or translate it into a protein, right? By arranging the amino acids as in the sequence that has been brought from the nuclear DNA, right? Now, the second step you call it as translation. So, translation is brought about with the help of ribosomes. So, transcription of a single mRNA with the help of many ribosomes. We know ribosomes, we have one lower unit and one bigger unit like this. So, one bigger unit and one smaller unit, right? So, a single mRNA is transcribed with the help of many ribosomes. You call it as polysome. So, such strings of ribosomes where you find multiple copies of a polypeptide, many ribosomes may associate with a single mRNA, then you call it as a polysome. So, nucleosome you know very well, nucleosome model you have studied, which contains histoproteins, histones, protein histones. So, which is one big another process concept which is less related with the given topic. Okay, moving on to question number 148. Now, the question is about the types of chromosomes. Of course, some of the words are not mentioned in the NCERT textbook, but still, this is something about chromosomes we need to know. This first one you have already heard, allosomes or sex chromosomes. Allosomes, question number 148. So allosomes, sex chromosomes, polytene chromosomes, oocytes of amphibians, lamprey chromosomes, diploidine bivalents, submetacentric chromosomes, L-shaped chromosomes. So you are quite familiar with allosomes and submetacentric chromosomes. So here you need to fetch out an incorrect match. Allosome sex chromosomes are absolutely right. So it is a correct match. The second one is polytene chromosomes, oocytes of amphibians. So polytene chromosomes are usually present in the salivary gland of Drosophila. So polytene chromosomes are present in the what? Salivary glands of the Drosophila, and they have They are called as polytene because they contain many huge amount of DNA which is formed due to continuous replication. Which is formed due to continuous replication. A polytene chromosomes looks like this. Polytene chromosomes which are present in the salivary glands of the Drosophila. The polytene chromosomes like this we have. So polytene chromosomes may be like this, right? We have highly coiled DNA part is also present. So this you call it as polytene chromosomes which are present in the salivary glands of the Drosophila. Then coming to lamp brush chromosomes. So lamp brush chromosomes, they are present in diplotin bivalents. You have come across diplotin stage in meiosis. You have come across diplotin stage in meiosis. So diplotin is the fourth stage in meiosis. So in meiosis we have meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. In meiosis 1 we have the fourth stage which is called as diplotin. The first one is leptotin, the second is zygotine, the third is pachytene, and the fourth is diplotin. So in diplotin, we find the centromere here with the arms like this. So in the pachytene stage itself, the crossing over has taken place. The crossing over has taken place, and we have the diplotin chromosomes like this. We have the diplotin chromosomes like this. Yes, this is the diplotin chromatids, which is called as the lamp brush. If you enlarge this part, if this part is enlarged, how it looks? It looks like this. So this is lamp brush chromosome, where you find it in the diplotin chromosomes. Here is the junction point, which can be written like this. So this is what you can call it as the lamp brush chromosomes, right? So this part has been enlarged for you. This part has been enlarged for you. You can see this is the centromere and this is the DNA coil structures. So lamp brush diplotin bivalents. They are present in diplotin bivalents. It is absolutely right. Submetacentric chromosomes are L-shaped. We already know that if the chromosome, this is the centromere, it is in the submetacentric. So metacentric and submetacentric. So the centromere has got two arms, one is small and the other is big, which if this arm is placed like this, then it becomes one short arm, little bit shorter, and the other is smaller, which is almost L-shaped. So this is absolutely right. Submetacentric chromosomes, L-shaped chromosomes is absolutely right. Lamb-brush chromosomes, diplotin bivalents is also right. Polytene chromosomes is absolutely wrong because they are present in the salivary gland of Drosophila but not in the oocytes of amphibians. Right? Allosome sex chromosomes are also the right ones. So the right answer for this is option 2. So moving on to the polytene chromosomes, oocyte of amphibians is the wrong match because polytene chromosomes are present in Drosophila salivary glands. So moving on to the question number 149. Nissl bodies are mainly composed of. Nissl bodies are mainly composed of. Yeah, the right answer. The options are. So the question is coming from the neural system. So free ribosomes and RER, DNA and RNA, proteins and lipids, nucleic acids and SER. So the different options we have: free ribosomes and RER, DNA and RNA, proteins and lipids, nucleic acids and SER. So the right answer is free ribosomes and RER. Nissl bodies are mainly composed of. So where are the Nissl bodies? I hope if you are quite aware of the structure of a neuron, right? If you are quite aware of the structure of a neuron like this, so the axon. This is called as the cyton. These are called as the dendrites. These are the dendrites, and we have the nucleus here in the neuron, and we have so many granular structures in the cyton, which is called as the Nissl granules. So they are called as the Nissl granules or Nissl bodies, they are referred as. So these Nissl bodies contain in them free ribosomes and rough endoplasmic reticulum. So moving on to the next question, 150. Yes, the question is coming from human physiology, that is digestion and absorption. So the question, which of the following terms describe human dentition? So human dentition has been described with certain words. So we need to fetch out which are those words. So the first one is thecodont, diphyodont and homodont. See that T is missing there. So thecodont, diphyodont and homodont. The second one is pleurodont, monophyodont and homodont. Then thecodont, diphyodont and heterodont. The fourth one is pleurodont, diphyodont and heterodont. So which is the right match that will describe human dentition? So thecodont, wherein the teeth of human beings are present in the sockets. So of course our teeth are present in the sockets. If you might have experienced in your childhood when the teeth is fallen down, there is a cavity in that place left over. So you might have observed it. So which is nothing but that. Hence the teeth of human beings is called as thecodont. So diphyodont. So in the entire human lifespan, we will have two sets of teeth. One is called as the milk set and the other is called as the permanent set of teeth. So because in the whole of human lifespan, we have two sets of teeth which are present naturally. The third one is artificial set. So don't worry about it. So here we describe it as diphyodont. And finally, homodont. This is not for human beings. In human beings, we don't find homodont. Homodont we have means having similar type of teeth. So in us, we have different types of teeth. That is, teeth of different size and shape. We call it as heterodont, but we don't have homodont. We have different types of teeth which are used to cut, and they are scissor-like, and they are called as incisors. And one, we have sharp teeth also, which is used to cut or tear, which is called as the incisors. And the other to crush the food or to grind the food, which is called as the molars and premolars. Therefore, we have different types of teeth. So hence, first one is not the right match. The second one consists of pleurodont, monophyodont, and homodont. So what is a pleurodont? So in pleurodont, what happens? The teeth is attached to the periosteum of the teeth is attached to the mandible and the maxillae. Then you call it as pleurodont. So usually in snakes we find a pleurodont of type of teeth, usually in the reptiles. So monophyodont, in the whole of the lifespan they will have only one set of teeth. You call it as homophyodont. Homodont, I have already told, a single type of all the teeth are of similar size and shape is homodont. In the third option, we have thecodont, diphyodont, and heterodont. It is the right match, which will explain the human dentition. So thecodont, the teeth is present inside the sockets. Diphyodont, in the whole of human lifespan, we will have two sets of teeth. One is the milk set and the other is the permanent set of teeth. And the third is heterodont. So we have four different types of teeth: the incisors, canines, molars, and premolars. So premolars and molars almost they are a little bit similar, but whereas incisors and canines, they are all of different shape. So different shapes of teeth we have, and we have two sets of teeth in our lifespan, and our teeth are present inside the sockets. Hence, thecodont, diphyodont, heterodont is the right answer. So moving on to the question number 151. Match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2 and select the correct option given below. So here we have a question coming from excretory products and their elimination, and we have some questions like questions in the column 1 and column 2 we need to match. In column 1 we have terminologies like glycosuria, gout, renal calculi, glomerular nephritis. So here one word is not related to excretion, it is related to locomotion and movement, but still we need to match rightly. Glycosuria. So glycosuria is, glyco refers to glucose and urea here refers to urine. So presence of glucose in urine can be the right match. Gout. So gout is one of the muscular disorder we find where there is accumulation of uric acid in joints. So gout is a disease which is related with the bones, that is skeletal system. There is accumulation of uric acid in the joints. So that is gout. Renal calculi, which means kidney stones. So mass of crystallized salts within the kidney. So in the different parts of the kidney, we find the precipitation of the salts, which can be called as, and these precipitation deposit one over the other, forming a big mass or which resembles a stone or a crystal, which is called as mass of crystallized salts within the kidney is renal calculi. So you can match C with 2. Glomerular nephritis. So it is inflammation of the glomeruli, one of the disorder related with the human excretory system. So the right match is glycosuria. A can be matched with the fourth one, B with 1, then C with 2 and D with 3. So fourth one shows the right match for this answer. So let's move on to the next question, question number 152. Now, here also we have a match the following. The match the following is related with the chapter excretory products and their elimination. So match the items given in column 1 with column 2 and select the correct option given below. Column 1, we have ultrafiltration, concentration of urine, transport of urine, storage of urine. So what exactly happens in different parts of the kidney? So ultrafiltration. So ultrafiltration is the first step in the formation of urine. So this takes place in the Malpighian corpuscle, or you can also call it as Bowman's capsule. So the word Bowman's capsule is not given. Instead of Bowman's capsule, you can mark over Malpighian corpuscle. So the Bowman's capsule is also called as Malpighian corpuscle. Next, ultrafiltration, because all the things which are present in the blood except the blood components and the blood proteins, everything is filtered, hence it is called as ultrafiltration. Fine filtration, superfiltration. Next, concentration of urine. So concentration of urine takes place in the Henle's loop. So we know the structure of the nephron. So we have the Henle loop, which consists of ascending limb, descending limb, and the loop of Henle. And the loop of Henle. Right? This is the loop of Henle. This is PCT. This is DCT. And this is the Malpighian corpuscle or the Bowman's capsule. Right? So, what is asking? Saying concentration of urine. So, here this part you call it as the ascending limb of loop of Henle. This is called as ascending limb of loop of Henle. Loop of Henle. And this is called as the descending limb. This is called as the descending limb. And this is called as the ascending limb. So both together will contribute for the what? Concentration of the urine. While the urine filtrate comes in this descending limb. So this descending limb is highly permeable to water and impermeable to salts. Here it is highly permeable to salts and impermeable to water. Therefore, there will be concentration of the urine which takes place in the Henle's loop. Next, transport of urine. So the urine from the DCT is transported to the collecting duct, but I think collecting duct is not given over there. So in both the all the collecting ducts are finally, so we have the kidneys. From the kidney we have the ureter coming towards the abdomen like this, right? They take the urine to the, so the urine that is formed in the kidneys is brought to the urinary bladder through the ureter. So who is going to, the third one is transport of urine is done by this ureter. So it is transported from the kidney to the abdomen to the region of urinary bladder. So finally, storage of urine. The urine is stored in this bag-like structure which is called as the urinary bladder. And now, the ultrafiltration can be matched with ultrafiltration can be matched with Malpighian corpuscle A4. Then concentration of urine, Henle's loop, transport of urine, ureter, storage of urine, urinary bladder. So A4, B1, C2, 3, D3, C2 and D3. So the right match is option 2. Right. Moving on to the next question, question number 153. Right. So there's a question coming from the chapter evolution. So evolution is nothing but the formation of complex species from simple forms of species with descent with modification, with lot of modifications. That is called as evolution. And in the evolution, so in the the part where finding out what are the evidences that has led to the process of evolution. So has really evolution taken place is the question. So if the evolution has taken place, what are the evidences to tell that evolution has taken place? So looking into the evidences, we have one of the big evidence, that is morphological and anatomical evidences. Under that, we are going to study concept like homology, analogy, adaptive radiation, and convergent evolution. Let me look into the question. The similarity of bone structure in the forelimbs of many vertebrates is an example. So forelimbs of many vertebrates. So let me take vertebrates like man, bat, whale, and cheetah. So he is telling about the forelimbs. So forelimbs, in the forelimbs there is arrangement of bone like humerus, which leads to radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and finally they have phalanges or the digits, right? Phalanges or the digits. So this is arrangement of the various bones. That is something called as, that can be called as the anatomy. So anatomy of the arrangement of the bones. So all these organisms have humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. So they have got a similar structure. And origin, because all of them, they take their origin from the connective tissue, that is the bones. Therefore similar structure and origin they have, but they have got different functions. So functions in human beings, the forelimbs are used to grasp or to hold certain things, but they are modified into wings, and they patagium, they help them to fly. Whale also, we have the patagium which helps in, in whale it is modified into flippers which help in swimming. Cheetah, it helps in running. So they have different functions, whereas the structure and the origin is similar, and therefore they are called as homologous organs. They are called as homologous organs. So these homologous organs, they show divergent evolution. So that means these organs are present in different directions to help them for their needs. So these are homologous structures. So these common homologous structures which have common origin and structure tells that all these organisms, that is man, bat, whale, and cheetah, have common ancestors. Tell that they have common ancestors, which is called as homology. Right? Homology, that is, they have common in ancestors. So, which is an example for divergent evolution. Adaptive radiation, so that is, the organisms adapt themselves to the habitat and they move to different places, which is the examples are Darwin finches, then marsupial, placental mammals, and also marsupials of Australia can be the example for adaptive radiation. And in convergent evolution, we have certain examples like eye of octopus and man. Both of them, they are used to look into receive the visual impulses, but their origin is different. Therefore, you call it as convergent evolution. Then homology, we have spoken about it. Analogy. So in analogous structures leads to analogy, which is quite opposite to homology. So the right answer is homology. Moving on to the question 154. So which of the following is not an autoimmune disease? So we have studied about autoimmune diseases in the chapter called as human health and diseases. So here we have different words like psoriasis and vitiligo, which and also Alzheimer's disease, which are not mentioned in your textbook. So now don't ask a question why this question has been put. But we very well know autoimmune diseases, and also we have studied about rheumatoid arthritis as an example. We need to search which are the other autoimmune diseases and which is not an autoimmune disease. That's the challenge here. It is a part of the syllabus itself. Don't think that it is not a part of our syllabus. It is a part of our syllabus. So autoimmune diseases we have studied in detail, where our own immune system is going to destroy certain proteins or molecules which are synthesized by our own body or present in our body, which leads to certain disorders which are called as autoimmune disorders, which is also referred as autoimmune diseases. Now they have given 4 important diseases there, and which is we need to identify which is not an autoimmune disease. So which is not an autoimmune disease. So Alzheimer's disease is one such disease related to the neural system. Alzheimer's disease is one of the disease which is related to the neural system. So in Alzheimer's disease, what happens is, so it is a neural disorder which is found in the after the age of 65, where we find people have got a lot of memory loss related to their daily activities itself. So if you have seen the film called as Godi Banna Sadharana Maikattu, you might have seen. If you have not seen that film, if you have seen that film, just check out. There's one role acted by Anand, some greatest celebrity called Anand Nag, who is suffering from the disease called as Alzheimer's disease, where he has got severe memory loss related to his daily activities. ಸೊ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋದವ್ರು ವಾಕಿಂಗಿಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋದವ್ರು ವಾಪಸ್ ಮನೆಗೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಮನೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. That is one of the symptom of this disease, which is called as Alzheimer's disease, which is a neural disorder. So this is not an autoimmune disease, and the remaining all the 3 are of course autoimmune diseases. Psoriasis, vitiligo and rheumatoid arthritis, all of them are autoimmune disorders. So rheumatoid arthritis, so where the joint, where there is severe joint pain, and the synovial joints, they undergo severe pain. The infection of this synovial membrane leads to rheumatoid arthritis. Vitiligo and psoriasis, they are related with the skin. So vitiligo is hypopigmentation of the skin. So skin in a brown color full whitish patches ಆಗುತ್ತೆ in case of vitiligo. Psoriasis ಅಲ್ಲಿ full ಮುಖ ಬಾಡಿ ಎಲ್ಲ thick skin blackish pigmentation, excess of ಪಿಗ್ಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಅನ್ನ ನಾವು ಸೋರಿಯಾಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ವರಸ್ ವಿಟಿಲಿಗೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಪೋಪಿಗ್ಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್, ಕಡಿಮೆ ಪಿಗ್ಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಇದ್ದು ಬಾಡಿ ವೈಟಿಶ್ ಪ್ಯಾಚಸ್ ಆಗೋದನ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ ದ 3, psoriasis, vitiligo and rheumatoid arthritis, are examples of autoimmune diseases. So Alzheimer's is a disease referring to the neural system, disorder of the neural system. So let's move on to the question number 155 here. Among the following sets of examples for divergent evolution, select the incorrect option. So now the question is coming from, once again, evolution. So I had just explained something about the evidences of evolution, right? So I was telling something about the morphological and anatomical organs. So let us see, that's telling the examples of divergent evolution. So divergent evolution is also once again something related to homology, right? I had written the example of the structure of the 4 limbs containing humerus, radius ulna, carpals, metacarpals and phalanges, right? So same type of examples we have here. They have given the example which is incorrect regarding divergent evolution. We need to pick, or which is not a homologous organ, right? That is what we need to pick here. Brain of bat, man and cheetah. Of course, they are all examples of homologous organs, hence showing divergent evolution. That is, they have organs which are adapted for their needs present on different parts of the body. Then heart of bat, man and cheetah forelimbs of man, bat and cheetah. All of them have common origin and they are similar in their structure because they are all chambered. Heart is chambered and they are all derived from the same endoderm. Then finally coming to eye of octopus, bat and man is an example of analogous organs or which is telling convergent evolution. So here we have the structure is different but the function is similar. In the earlier three examples, we can find that the function is different but the structure is similar. In the fourth case, it is exhibiting convergent evolution. So we can tell it is eye of octopus, bat and man. All of them, they have the structure is different. The eye of octopus is different, bat is different and man is different. But all of them, they serve the same purpose to receive the visual impulses. Therefore, the function is same, which is exactly opposite to homology or homologous organs and is called as an example for analogous organs. Therefore, divergent evolution, it is not showing divergent evolution, instead it is showing convergent evolution. Here moving on to the question number 156. Yes, which of the following characteristics represent the inheritance of blood groups in humans? So one is telling dominance, codominance, multiple dominance, incomplete dominance and polygenic inheritance. So look at the options. Which of the following characters are describing the blood groups? Dominance, can you see dominance in blood groups? Can we see codominance in blood groups? Can we see multiple dominance in blood groups? Can we see incomplete dominance in blood groups? Can we see polygenic inheritance? So many genes exhibit a single character is called as polygenic inheritance. Dominance we have already studied. So among a pair of allele, if one is dominant and the other is recessive, if one expresses itself without the support of the other, by suppressing the other, you call it as dominant. So here in inheritance of blood groups. So in blood groups we have, according to Carl Landsteiner, we have 4 human blood groups: A, B, AB and O. So these blood groups are identified with the help of a gene called as I, which is called as isohemoagglutinogen gene. This is called as hemo-isoagglutinogen gene, and this has got 3 multiple forms which is represented as IA, IB and small I. Here IA, IB are dominant and small I is recessive. Small I is recessive. So IA and IB are going to produce certain type of proteins which are present on the membrane of the RBC cell, and hence they both are dominant. Whereas the small I gene is not going to synthesize any protein, so therefore it is called as recessive. Now the different combination of these 3 genes will be the genotype of the ABO blood groups. Now let us say the genotype of the A blood group can be represented as IAIA. So this is homozygous A blood group. So where this IA gene and IA gene both are put together, so they are homologous, or you can call it as homomorphic or homozygous, you can call it as. And we have another form where IA small I. Here IA, since IA is dominant, small I is recessive, so the physical expression of the gene will be A blood group. The physical expression of the this genotype will be blood group A. And now in case of B blood group, the genotype is IB. This is homozygous B blood group, and heterozygous we have IB and small I. So this is IB is dominant, small I is recessive. So since IB is dominant, it is going to synthesize the B protein which contributes for B blood group. In AB you can find IA, IB. And in O blood group we have, here no protein is present on the RBC membrane. So we have O blood group, which is represented by two small I, which are recessive. Now, here you can find the dominant. So the characters, what are the characters is asked in the question. So in the question they have told, can you see in inheritance of blood groups dominance is seen? Yes, you can see here dominance. In IAI and IBI, we can see dominance where IA is dominant over the IA and IB are dominant over small I, right? In case of codominance, second one is codominance. In case of codominance, we can see here in IA-IB, AB blood group, we have both IA and IB. So, AB blood group cannot be identified without any of the allele. Both of them are dominant, but both of them need to express this particular phenotype, right? So neither of them are dominant, both of them are expressing themselves, which is called as codominance. So this blood group can be expressed in presence of both the both the genes, which has to completely express themselves. So that is called as codominance. So, and the third one is multiple dominance, or you can multiple dominance, because you can see here it is dominant, 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 and here also we have, sorry, this. So we have many dominants or multiple alleles are there. So we can call it as multiple dominance. So there's nothing called as incomplete dominance. There's no incomplete dominance, or the formation of a third character cannot be seen here. So, or an intermediate character cannot be seen here. So we don't find incomplete dominance. Neither there is polygenic inheritance. So this is showing certain characteristics of dominance, codominance, and multiple dominance. That is ABC. ABC. So fourth one is the right match for question number 156. So moving on to next question 157. In which disease does mosquito transmitted pathogen cause chronic inflammation of lymphatic vessels? So the question is from Human Health and Diseases. So we have studied various infectious diseases in this chapter, and there is a disease which is transmitted through a mosquito, and the person who gets the disease will suffer from inflammation of the lymphatic vessels. Now we need to identify which is that particular disease. So the name of the disease is elephantiasis or filariasis, which is caused by a pathogen called as Uchararia bancrofti, or it is also called as a nematode or a roundworm. It is called as a roundworm. So ringworm disease is another option, which is caused due to the fungi called as trichophyton or epidermophyton or microsporum. Species of different groups of fungi will cause this ringworm disease, which is a fungal disease spread because of the use of contaminated certain things which contain the spores from the diseased person, like the towels or the combs may contain the spores, infected spores. So if one person uses the comb of other person, there is direct transmission of the infected spores, and the other person may also suffer from ringworm disease. So the third one is ascariasis, caused by Ascaris lumbricoides, another roundworm, and amoebiosis we have, which is caused by Entamoeba histolytica, which is also called as amoebic dysentery, right? So here inflammation of the lymphatic vessels, chronic inflammation of the lymphatic vessels, and also deformation of the genital organs. All these are some of the symptoms of elephantiasis. So let's move on to the next question, that is question number 158. Now, the question is coming from the chapter Microbes and Human Welfare. Conversion of milk to curd improves its nutritional value by increasing the amount of, so vitamin B12, vitamin D, vitamin A, and vitamin E are different options. So milk getting converted into curds. So milk contains a glucose, contains a sugar which is called as lactose, and this lactose is converted into lactic acid. Thereby, there is conversion of milk into curds with the help of the bacteria called as lactobacillus. So, lactobacillus is that group of bacteria which will convert milk into curds by converting lactose sugar into lactic acid, right? So, this curd, and India is very famous for curd rice, right? So that too, particularly South India, they use curd rice, and which is rich in vitamin B12. It is told that it has got many nutritional values, and it is one of the important diet of South Indians. So vitamin B12 also called as cobalamin. So next one is it is also believed that it also increases the immunity of the person. So moving on to question number 159. Which of the following is an amino acid derived hormone? So we have different hormones here given. So the question is coming from the chapter Chemical Coordination and Integration. So where we have studied about the various hormones. So ecdysone is one hormone, epinephrine, estriol, estradiol. So except epinephrine, all of them are steroid hormones. So ecdysone brings about ecdysis, a process called as ecdysis. A process called as ecdysis in case of insects, and also even in, or it is also called as molting in case of insects, and also in some animals like snakes, we find this molting, shedding of the external skin periodically, which is called as ecdysis or molting, which is brought about by this hormone called as ecdysone, which is a steroid, right? So amino acid derived is the epinephrine. So epinephrine is a hormone called as adrenaline, which is secreted from the adrenal medulla of human beings. So estriol and estradiol are also steroid hormones. Estriol and estradiol, so which are secreted along with the estrogens in very small quantities. So moving on to question number 160. Which of the following structures of regions is incorrectly paired with its function? So which is incorrectly matched, that we need to find out. So the first one is telling. So this is a question coming from neural control and coordination, and we have the different parts of the brain along with their functions. So the first one is telling something about the medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata, question number 160. Which of the following structures of regions is incorrectly paired with its function? So medulla oblongata controls respiration and cardiovascular reflexes. So it is absolutely right. It is one of the regulatory system of both cardiac system, about the regulatory system of both the heart and also the respiratory system. So it is a right match. We need to look into the incorrect match. The second one is telling limbic system consists of fiber tracts that interconnect different regions of brain, controls movement. So limbic system or limbic lobe, which is present almost in the midbrain, in between, near the midbrain. So we have the limbic lobe, which controls the emotions of a person. So it will control the emotions. It has got certain regions like amygdala and hippocampus, right, which controls the emotions of a person. Now, therefore, this is a wrong match. So limbic system do not contain fiber tracts that connect different regions of the brain or controls the movement. So it is a wrong match. But still look into the third and fourth. Hypothalamus, production of releasing hormones and regulation of temperature, hunger and thirst. So hypothalamus will produce the hormones. Production of releasing hormones is right, but it will not regulate temperature, hunger and thirst, which is brought about by cerebellum. Next, Corpus callosum. Corpus callosum, band of fibers connecting like, hypothalamus, production of releasing hormones, right? Because it will release the hormones which are stored and finally secreted by the neurohypophysis, and it will also regulate temperature, hunger and thirst. Therefore it is a right match. Finally, corpus callosum, they are band of fibers which will connect the right and left cerebral hemispheres. So it is also absolutely right. So the wrong match is limbic system. So moving on to question number 161. Which of the following hormones can play a significant role in osteoporosis? So we know that osteoporosis is caused in the middle-aged women or above adult women, and it is due to certain hormones, deficiency of certain hormones and calcium deficiency. So this is a question coming from the chapter Chemical Coordination and Integration. So which are those hormones which have significant role in osteoporosis? So they have linked the two different chapters. Osteoporosis we have studied in locomotion as a disorder in the chapter called as locomotion and movement, and the hormones we have studied in chemical coordination. We need to link the two chapters to solve this question. So here we have, in the first one, we have estrogen and parathyroid hormone. So the second one is progesterone and aldosterone. The third one is parathyroid hormone and prolactin. The fourth one is aldosterone and prolactin. So just introspect the function of each and every hormone. Estrogen, which is a hormone which is secreted only in the female in excess. So it is a ovarian hormone. As the age goes on, there is less secretion of estrogen, and parathyroid hormone is one such hormone which is also called as parathormone, also called as hypercalcemic hormone. So it maintains the calcium levels in the blood. So these two hormones play a great role. If their secretion is very less, then it leads to osteoporosis, that is degeneration of the bones. So estrogen and parathyroid hormone is absolutely a right match, right answer for this question. So in the second one, progesterone is of course once related with the human women, but it is not always secreted. It is secreted in higher concentration only at the time of pregnancy. Aldosterone, it is secreted both in male and female, and it is a steroid hormone which is which is related with the ionic balance. And the third one, parathyroid, is of course right, but prolactin is the one which will secrete milk from the mammary glands. So only at the time of soon after the pregnancy or soon after the parturition this happens, not always. Therefore, this cannot be the right match. Even the fourth cannot be the right match. The first one is the right answer. So we are moving on to question number 162. The question is once again coming from neural control and coordination. The transparent lens in the human eye is held in its place by. So which is the one which is going to keep the lens exactly in its position? So exactly in its position. Smooth muscles attached to the ciliary body, ligaments attached to the ciliary body, smooth muscles attached to the iris, ligaments attached to the iris. So ligaments attached to the ciliary body are going to keep intact in position the lens. So the lens which is present in between the cornea and the retina, or in between the vitreous humor and the aqueous humor, is very transparent and helps in reflecting the images. So they are kept intact in position with the help of the ligaments attached to the ciliary body is absolutely right. So let's move on to the next question. Question number 163. Now, which of the following animals does not undergo metamorphosis? So one of the organism given over here will not undergo metamorphosis. So metamorphosis means indirect development. So it shows direct development. So metamorphosis does not undergo metamorphosis. tunicate, moth, starfish, and earthworm. So tunicate, it is referring to cephalochordata. Tunicata coming under tunicata itself is a group of organisms. So under the chordates, so moth, starfish, and earthworm. So tunicata shows metamorphosis. Moth. So butterfly we see that the eggs transformed into caterpillar form transformed into a larvae, and larvae finally becomes an adult. So it also undergoes metamorphosis. Starfish coming from echinoderms, they also show indirect development. But earthworm doesn't show direct development. It shows starfish shows indirect development, earthworm shows direct development. So earthworm is a one which does not undergo metamorphosis. So it doesn't show indirect development, it shows direct development. Ferritima pastuma, it is also called as. Let's move to the next question, question number 164. Identify the vertebrate groups of animals characterized by crop and gizzard in its digestive system. So the answers are aves, reptilia, osteichthyes, and amphibia. So the right answer, crop and gizzard are present in case of aves. So crop is a modified form of the what is called as the stomach. So in reptiles, osteichthyes, and amphibia, crop and gizzard are totally absent, but they are present in the birds. Hence, aves is the right answer. So moving on to question number 165. Which of the following organisms are known as chief producers in the oceans? So which are called as producers? So producers means in the oceans means it is algae, right? So let us look into the options. Euglenoids, dinoflagellates, cyanobacteria, and diatoms. So we have group of organisms. Euglenoids, so they are protozoans. Dinoflagellates, they are fungi. Cyanobacteria and diatoms, both of them, they come under blue-green algae. So diatoms is the one which is called as chief producers in the oceans. So we will go with diatoms as the right answer. So moving on to the question number 166. So here, which one of these animals is not a homeotherm? So homeotherm means warm-blooded animal, which is not a homeotherm is the question. So we need to pick an organism which is cold-blooded, right? Psittacula is nothing but the parrot. So it is the scientific name of parrot. So parrot is aves, shows homeotherm. Macropus. So Macropus is a mammal which also is a homeotherm. Camellias is a camel which is a mammal which is also a homeotherm. Chelone midas or testudo we have come across in reptiles. So chelone, that is turtle. So turtle is one of the example of reptile, is not a homeotherm, instead it is a poikilotherm. So Macropus, it is kangaroo. Kangaroo is also a mammal, therefore it is homeotherm. Chelone, which is a reptile, or turtle, which is a reptile, is not a homeotherm, it is a poikilotherm or a cold-blooded organism. So therefore chelone is the right answer. So moving on to question number 167. Yes, ciliates differ from other protozoans in having a contractile vacuole for removing excess water, using flagella for locomotion, having two types of nuclei, using pseudopodia for capturing the prey. Having a contractile vacuole. Almost all the protozoans have contractile vacuoles, so which will collect all the waste and put it out of the body. So ciliates are one of the group of protozoans. So protozoans are organisms which are made up of just one cell. So they have different groups like rhizopodans, ciliates, flagellates, and also sporozoans. So here ciliates are differ from all other protozoans? What is specially very different in ciliates? So they have a contractile vacuole, all of them will have. So use flagella for locomotion? No, absolutely they do not have flagella, but they have cilia. So have two types of nuclei is absolutely right in case of ciliates, particularly when I take the example of paramecium. There we find two nuclei. Finally, the fourth one, using pseudopodia for capturing prey, that is, they are present in rhizopodons but not in case of ciliates. So the right answer for this is having two types of nuclei. Let me explain. So ciliates, let me take the example of paramecium. So paramecium is also called as slipper animalcule. So it is also called as slipper animalcule, right? So it has got two nuclei. One is the bigger nuclei and one there is a smaller nuclei. This is called as a macronucleus. It is called as a macronucleus and this is called as a micronucleus. It is called as a micronucleus. So it has got cilia for movement, hence comes under the group called as ciliates. Hence comes under the group called as ciliates. This animal is also called as slipper animalcule. Since it is in the shape of a slipper, it is also called as slipper animalcule. It has got two vacuoles, one on the anterior part and one on the posterior part. So they have radiating parts like this. So this is anterior vacuole and this is posterior vacuole, and they also have a groove, oral groove like this. So which continues into a cytopharynx like structure and finally ends up with a food vacuole. So oral groove which resembles the mouth, and this is called as the cytopharynx, which opens with the help of a short tube into the food vacuole, right? Into the food vacuole. So we have the cytopharynx. Exactly, it is not pharynx because it is not having any organ like pharynx. It is a single cell. That part is like a short tube extending from the oral part to the food vacuole. It is called as cytopharynx and this is the food vacuole. So other than this, there are food vacuoles and also contractile vacuoles and also reserve food, certain structures which also contain the reserve food materials. So having two types of nuclei is one of the unique character of ciliates, that is the protozoans. So I have taken the example of paramecium and I have told how two types of nuclei, that is macronuclei and micronuclei, are present. So moving on to question number 168. Which of the following features is used to identify the male cockroach from a female cockroach? Presence of a boat-shaped sternum on the ninth abdominal segment. Presence of anal cerci. Four wings with darker tegmina. Presence of anal styles. So the right answer is presence of anal styles is the right answer. So only the male cockroach will have the anal styles, but the female cockroach will not have the anal styles. So let me assume this is the abdomen of a cockroach. They have got two structures like this, and here there are two projections. And here are the So if this is the abdomen of a cockroach, these are anal styles which are present only in male cockroach. and it is absent in case of this is anal cerci, which are present both in male and female, but these structures are present only in male but absent in female, right? So let's move on to the next question, question number 169. Which of the following options correctly represents the lungs conditions in asthma and emphysema respectively? So we know that asthma and emphysema are two disorders of the respiratory system. So the question is from the respiratory breathing and exchange of gases. So look into the options. In case of emphysema and asthma, so in asthma what happens, certain allergens when the person who is suffering from asthma is exposed to certain allergens, his respiratory tract is going to become very narrow. So now we need to look into the options and tell which is the right answer. Increased respiratory surface inflammation of bronchioles. So in case of asthma, there is no increase in the respiratory surface, but it is going to decrease. So there is inflammation, increased number of bronchioles, increased respiratory surface. That is also not right. Inflammation of bronchioles and decreased respiratory surface. So this will be the right answer. Inflammation of bronchioles and decreased respiratory surface. So inflammation of bronchioles is related to asthma, and decreased respiratory surface is related to emphysema. Both are disorders of the lungs. So the right answer is option 3. Moving on to the next question, 170. So we have a question from the chapter circulatory blood and its circulation. So in column 1 we have 3 statement like 3 words like tricuspid valve, bicuspid valve and semilunar valve. On column 2, it is telling the location of these valves. So tricuspid valve, which is present in between the right atrium and the right ventricle. It is present between the right atrium and right ventricle. So bicuspid valve, it is present between left atrium and left ventricle, and semilunar valve, it is present between right ventricle and pulmonary artery. So let's look into the diagram and get it confirmed whether this is right or wrong. So we have a tilted heart which consists of 4 chambers, So the interventricular septum, this is the interauricular septum. So in between the right atrium is singular, atrium is singular and atria is plural. This is right atrium and this is right ventricle. Excuse me, right ventricle. So this is left atrium and left ventricle. So now in between these two we have the tricuspid valve, and in between these two we have the bicuspid valve, also called as the mitral valve. So in between right atrium and right ventricles we have the tricuspid, in between left atrium and left ventricle we have the bicuspid. So in the pulmonary artery which carries which starts from the left ventricle, so moves like this and bends over the head like this. So at the foot of this pulmonary artery, it has got a valve which is called as the semilunar valve. So semilunar means half moon shaped. Lunar means moon. Semi means half. Half moon shaped valve it is. So hence it is called as semilunar. So it is like this. The valve is like this, hence it is called as semilunar valve, right? Which is present between right ventricle, right ventricle and pulmonary artery. Sorry. This is aorta. Sorry. So the pulmonary artery branches into two and enters into each lung, which arises from the foot of the right ventricle, which has got the semilunar valves here. So between right ventricle and pulmonary artery is the right answer. So the right matches tricuspid valve. A can be matched with 3, B with 1 and C with 2. So moving on to, so fourth option is the right answer. Let's move on to the next question, 171. Yes. So we have something about the lung capacity, that is from the chapter breathing and exchange of gases. The question consists of the various volumes of lungs. Column 1 contains the various volumes in the lungs and column 2 containing the amount, telling what volume of air is present in the lungs. So in column 1 we have tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume and residual volume. So tidal volume is the amount of air that is taken into the lungs during a normal inspiration. So which is called as tidal volume, and it is about 500 to 550 ml. So A can be matched with 3. So you can look into option 2 and option 3. Right now you can just delete off option 1 and option 3. Don't think about option 1 and option 3. So just think about option 2 and 4. Now look into inspiratory reserve volume. So inspiratory reserve volume, it is the excess of air taken during a deep inspiration, and it is about 2500 ml to 3000 ml. So B can be matched with 1. So I was telling you we will think about only second and fourth. Among the second and fourth, second is telling about B can be matched with 1. So let's check out only 2 now. Expiratory reserve volume. So it is the volume of air which is expired in excess to the tidal volume, which is about 1000 to 1100 ml, 1000 to 1100 ml, and it can be matched with fourth one. So C can be matched with fourth one. Residual volume, it is the volume of air still remains in the lungs even after expiratory reserve volume and inspiratory, even after a deep expiration. So that is called as residual volume, and it is about 1100 to 1200 ml. So A can be matched with 3, B can be matched with 1, C can be matched with 4, and D can be matched with 2. Yes. So D can be matched with 2. So A3, B1, A3, B1, C4, D2. Second one is the right answer. Let's move on to next question. Question number 172. Yeah. Here we have a sequence coming from the chapter molecular basis of inheritance. There is a DNA sequence AGGTATCGCAT. Is a sequence from the coding strand of a gene. So a coding strand will a gene will contain 2 strands, a coding strand and the other is called as the template strand. What will be the current corresponding sequence of the transcribed mRNA? So now, what does the transcribed mRNA in it contain? So if this is a coding strand and this is a, assume these are 2 DNA strands, and this is the coding strand, This is the coding strand, and this is the template strand. This is the template strand of the given gene. This is the template strand. So now the question is telling in the coding strand of a gene contains AGG, AGG, then TAT, TAT, then CGC, CGC, and AT, right? AT. So what will be on the template strand? It will be exactly what? A will be always matched with T because it is a DNA strand. So it is a gene. Let us assume this is a DNA strand because transcription can occur from DNA to mRNA. So this should be, the gene should be of DNA, right? This belongs to DNA. Since it is a DNA, there are all chances because P is also mentioned. Thymine is also present as a nitrogen base. We can tell this is a DNA. So A can be matched with T, G can be matched with C, here also C, here also A, thymine with adenine, adenine with thymine, this is C, this is once again G, here C, here G, here T, and this here we have A, right? So this will be the template strand, this will be the coding strand, right? Now what they are telling is what will be the corresponding sequence of the transcribed mRNA. So mRNA will transcribe looking at the template strand. So what will be the mRNA? So corresponding to this will be the mRNA. So this mRNA will transcribe. In place of T, it will take A, right? In place of C, it will take G. In place of C, it will take once again G. In place of A, it has to take T, but mRNA will not have, RNA will not have thymine. Instead, it will have uracil, right? A, G, G, U. In place of T, there will be A, C. Once again, G will be there. G will have C. In place of C, there will be G. In place of G, once again C. In place of T, once again you find U. And in place of A, you will find T. Sorry. In place of A, you will find, in place of T, you will find A. In place of A, you will find U. Right? This will be the, yes. Now look into the options to answer the question. So this is the template strand. Almost the coding strand and the mRNA strand will be almost same. This coding strand and this mRNA strand will be always almost same. But instead of wherever you find a T here, T is replaced by U here. Right? So UA here, it should be A is replaced. Oh, here I should have written A, and here it is U once again. U, A, U, C, G, C, A, U. Now look into the options. So the last option, I think it will match with the given A, double G, U, A, U, C, G, C, C, G, C, A, U. Right? So this will be the sequence on the transcribed mRNA. So look into the question, read the question properly. They're telling it is particularly to the coding strand. It is not the template strand. So be careful while reading the question. So the answer is option 4. Move to the question number 173. So the question is from evolution once again. According to Hugo de Vries, the mechanism of evolution is phenotypic variations, multiple step mutations, saltation, minor mutations. So Hugo de Vries was the one who found out mutations. So mutations are sudden genetic changes that occur at the level of genes. certain changes which occur at the level of the genes. The variation at the level of gene will change the genotype of an organism, and that genotype of an organism will also change the phenotype of an organism, which makes it very different from its ancestors. That's the thing here. So according to Hugo de Vries, the mechanism of evolution is, he is not telling anything about the phenotypic variations. If he is telling about phenotypic variations, the phenotypic variations are because of genotypic variations. Why are the genotypic variations? That is because of mutation. What type of mutation it is which is bringing about the phenotypic variations? It is saltation. According to him, multiple step mutations do not occur. According to him, he tells one large single step mutation is called as saltation, which brings about evolution. So according to Hugo de Vries, mutations bring about evolution, and he tells saltation is single step large mutation which makes an organism very different from its ancestor, and just in a span of one generation, the differences can occur and evolutionary process can occur, or speciation or the formation of new species can occur according to Hugo de Vries. So it is saltation which is going to bring about the mechanism of evolution, not minor mutations. Minor mutations may bring about small changes in the phenotypic expressions. So the right answer is saltation. So moving on to the next question, that is 174. Here we have a question coming from human reproduction about the menstrual cycle. So match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2 and select the correct option given below. In column 1, we have three phases: proliferative phase, secretory phase, and menstruation. So column 2, breakdown of endometrial lining, follicular phase, and the luteal phase. In the human menstrual cycle, if you can remember, so if it is human menstrual cycle, the first, it takes place for 28 days. It takes for 28 days. The 1 to 5th day, you can call it as the menstrual flow, the phase of menstrual flow. So 6th day to 13th day can be called as the proliferative phase. Proliferative phase. Or it is also called as follicular phase. So a lot of changes takes place both in the uterus and also in the ovary. So 14th day is considered as the day of ovulation. So 15th to 28th day is considered as, once again, the luteal phase. Luteal phase, or it is also called as secretory phase, So a lot of changes takes place both in the endometrium of the uterus and also in the ovary. So 1 to 5th day, where the endometrium breaks down. Endometrium is the innermost lining of the uterus, and there is breakdown of this endometrial lining, and this endometrium consists of a lot of blood vessels and soft tissues which will get ruptured, and it will flow off through the vagina, which is called as the menstrual flow. The 6th to 13th day, we call it as the proliferative phase, where there is secretion of the LH and also FSH from the pituitary gland, and there is also secretion of hormones from the uterus, ovary, like the estrogen, more quantity of estrogen and less quantity of progesterone at this phase. So which is called as the proliferative phase or the follicular phase, where the primary follicle will slowly get converted into secondary follicle, secondary into tertiary, tertiary into Graafian follicle. So all these changes takes place in the follicular phase or the proliferative phase. At the same time, the endometrium, there is regeneration of the endometrial wall at this time. And on the 14th day, in the secondary oocyte, which is present in the Graafian follicle, ruptures the walls of the Graafian follicle and it is released out of the ovary and it is caught by the fimbriae, and that phase is called as ovulation. At this time, there is high secretion of LH and this ovulation is brought about by the excess secretion of LH, or the secretion of LH at its peak, which is called as LH surge, which will bring about ovulation, right? And that it occurs usually on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle. And from 15th to 28th day, what happens? The remaining of the Graafian follicle will get converted into a structure called as the yellow body or corpus luteum, and it will start secreting progesterone. Small secretions of progesterone continues. So, on the other hand, there is complete development of the endometrial wall. So, the endometrium or of the uterus is ready to implant a fetus. It is getting ready for implantation. So, if at all there is no coitus, or if there is no sexual intercourse, or if there is no fertilization, once again there is rupturing of the endometrial wall and once again menstrual flow starts. So this is a brief account of the menstrual cycle in case of female mammals, that to primates. So now we need to match. Your question number 175. The question is, a woman has X-linked condition on one of her X chromosomes. This chromosome can be inherited by. So, an woman has got X-linked condition. That is, she might have an X-linked disease or anything like that condition on one of her X chromosomes. This chromosome can be inherited by. So, the options are telling both sons and daughters. Second is only sons, third is only daughters, and fourth is only grandchildren. So let us see the explanation of it. A woman has got X-linked condition on her X chromosome. See, usually females have XX chromosomes as the allosomes. Females have XX chromosomes as allosomes and males have XY chromosomes. So they are heterogametic and females are homogametic. Let's forget about the male who is heterogametic. Now let us come to XX chromosome, homogametic women. So she is going to contribute both X chromosome. X chromosomes can be contributed to either son or daughter. She will contribute it to both her sons and daughter. So it's not that only any of the X can be contributed to anybody, but in males that is not the case. X is inherited only to daughter, and Y is inherited only to son, right? So this is not the case in case of a female. So in male they have chance that Y is only inherited to son and X is only inherited to daughter, but in women that is not the case. Because she is homogametic, X can be shared with both her sons and also daughters. So the answer is both sons and daughters. Option 1 is the right answer. So moving on to the next question. Yes, both sons and daughters will be the right answer. Moving on to the next question. Question number 176. Yes, the question is coming from molecular basis of inheritance. So all of the following are part of an operon except. So we have studied the lac operon concept. Operon is a set of genes, so which will metabolize something or which has got a specific function. So here an operon will contain genes like an operator, a promoter, and also they will contain the structural genes. So structural genes and functional genes. Operon will contain two set of genes. One is called as the structural genes and the other is called as the functional genes. A regulator gene and a promoter gene can be the functional genes, and an operator gene as promoter and are all called as functional genes, whereas structural genes help in the transcription of a particular type of gene. So those are called as structural genes. So here an operon will have an operator, a promoter, and also natural genes, but it will not have an enhancer. So enhancer is not a part of the operon. Next, moving on to the next question. Which of the following gastric cells indirectly help in erythropoiesis? So, which helps in erythropoiesis, that is parietal cells. So, parietal cells brings about the indirectly helps in the process of erythropoiesis. Erythropoiesis is formation of RBCs. The goblet cells, they will secrete the mucus. The chief cells or the peptic cells will synthesize the proenzymes, secrete the proenzymes. Mucus cells will secrete the mucus, and parietal cells will help in the absorption of vitamin B12 and also helps in the process of erythropoiesis indirectly. So, moving on to next question 178. Yeah, match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2 and select the correct option given below. So, column 1 will contain three things: fibrinogen, globulin, and albumin. On column 2, we have their functions. Fibrinogen is related with blood clotting, globulin is related with defense mechanism, and albumin is related with osmotic balance. So, fibrinogen helps in clotting of blood A2, then globulin helps in defense mechanism B3, and albumin helps in osmotic balance. So A2, B3, C1 is the right match for this particular question. So moving on to the next question, question number 179. So here we have calcium is important in skeletal muscle contraction because so we have studied about the skeletal muscles in the chapter locomotion and movement. So in the skeletal muscles, they contain two important types of proteins, the contractile proteins, the actin and the myosin, right? So calcium is important in skeletal muscle contraction because so we have the actin molecule and the myosin molecule. So during muscle contraction, what happens? The myosin head goes and binds to the myosin head binds with the actin. Actin and myosin, both of them bind together and they are pulled inwards, which is explained by the sliding filament theory. So what happens is usually the actin, which contains globular proteins. In looking to the structure of the actin, it contains globular proteins like this, and this globular proteins in turn is once again, these are globular proteins which are present in two filaments. So F actins, G actins, they are referred as, and this filament has got another protein like this, which is called as the troponin. These are G actins. This is called as tropomyosin. So on the tropomyosin, on irregular intervals, there are certain proteins called as troponin, right? Troponin. You can see the figure. So there are G actins which are present in the form of F actins, and we have the tropomyosin. On the tropomyosin, there are the troponin which are exactly masking the active sites for the binding of the myosin head. So now when the calcium is there, when there is release of calcium due to nerve impulses coming from the brain, reaches the skeletal muscles. So the stimulation is brought about in the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So it will immediately release the calcium ions into the sarcoplasm. So these calcium ions move towards the troponin, and they combine with the calcium will combine with the troponin. Calcium will combine with this troponin. So it will unmask the active sites present below the troponin. Now the myosin head will bind to the actin and it will pull it inwards. This is briefly telling something about the skeletal muscle contraction. Now look into the options and try to answer. Binds to troponin. Calcium is important in skeletal muscle. So binds to means calcium binds to. It is calcium binds to troponin to remove the masking of active sites on actin for myosin. It is absolutely right. So where are the active sites on the actin? Who is going to bind to the actin? That is myosin. So the first one is clearly explaining the contraction process. Second one activates the myosin ATPase by binding to it. No, it is not possible. So myosin has got two. Myosin has got a myosin head like this and a tail region like this. So this myosin head on it will contain this is called as actin binding site and this can be called as the ATP binding site. So what he's trying to tell is activates the myosin ATPase by binding to it. No, it is not the thing. So calcium is going to act with the troponin but nothing to do with myosin. So prevents the formation of bonds between myosin cross bridges and the actin filament. No. Detaches the myosin head from the actin filament. That is brought, these two are done by the action of ATP but not with the help of calcium. Therefore, the right answer is option 1, binds to troponin to remove the masking of active sites on actin for myosin. So moving on to the last question of today's session. So which of the following is an occupational respiratory disorder? So there are respiratory disorders which we have learned like asthma, emphysema, etc. So here we have one more occupational respiratory disorder. See, when some of the diseases are caused to people at the place of their work, you call it as occupational respiratory disorder. And here we have occupational disorder is anthracis, emphysema, botulism and silicosis. So this silicosis is caused due to the infection of intake of bits of silica. So bits of silica means usually the sand. You know sand is silica, SiO2 is silica. So sand is nothing but silica. Person who will be continuously getting exposed to this sand dust or soil dust may inhale bits of silica which will get into the lungs and causes pulmonary fibrosis. So silicosis is called as an occupational respiratory disorder. So anthracis is a disease caused in cattle called as caused by Bacillus anthrax. And emphysema is also disease caused in human beings where there is inflammation and infection of the respiratory membrane and reduces the formation of oxyhemoglobin, right? Decreases the surface area for transportation of oxygen. And finally, botulism is one of the fungal disease which causes food poisoning. So silicosis is the right answer for this question. It is an occupational respiratory disorder. So let me conclude this session here. Hope this discussion has helped you to understand and get properly prepared for your further grand tests. So wish you all good luck. Thank you.